It was September 11th, 2012. America was under attack. 4 Americans dead. The first ambassador killed in more than 3 decades. An information officer and 2 SEALs murdered. 3 days after the attacks on the consulate, Arwa Damon walked through the burned-out remains of the compound. She was one of the first journalists to arrive in Benghazi.
We first came here 3 days after the attack. This was the ambassador's bedroom, part of a suite that made up the safe room, which was fortified with heavy metal bars on the windows and door. And it was here, between the bed and the chair, that we found his diary. As we walked freely through the compound, it was strangely insecure. Personal and official documents strewn about. We met the young man who shot video of Ambassador Stevens, unconscious, close to death, being carried out.
I was filming video, and I thought it was an American. I thought it was a driver or a security guy.
We also spoke to the doctor who tried to save Stevens' life.
No pulse, no breathing.
I tried to resuscitate, but after 45 minutes, no sign of life.
One eyewitness who arrived at the compound as the firefight was subsiding told us that he'd seen bearded men with rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapons. Detained briefly by the gunmen, he said they'd been talking about attacking a second target, which turned out to be the American CIA annex about a mile away. We also tracked down several of the Libyan guards who had been at the compound that night. They told us it was a quick and intense assault, well organized and involving more than 50 people, some wearing Afghan-style turbans. One guard told us they must have received training. To understand the attack, you have to understand the layout of the consulate.
That is the compound's outer and only perimeter. There's a little bit of concertina wire on top of it. When the assault happened from multiple directions, that is one of the gates that the attackers very easily broke through. And as is clear, there was nothing stopping them from reaching the buildings except for this sandbagged fighting position.
CNN was on the ground in Benghazi less than 72 hours after the attack. But it would be nearly a month before an FBI team visited the crime scenes.
Who knows how many untold, countless individuals had trampled that crime scene after the fact. So any physical evidence, boot prints, shoe prints, fingerprints, you name it, all that trace evidence that's extremely valuable is now either contaminated completely or not even there anymore.
9 months later, in the ops room, the movement whiteboard bears silent witness to that night. Empty ammunition boxes litter the floor. There remains some traces of the FBI's brief visit. As they sifted through the wreckage, the U.S. Attorney General promised to solve this matter, to hold people accountable. But by then, it seems some of the attackers were far away. The crime scene had been tainted. In a city where the flag of jihad was flying and where the Libyan government had little power, finding those accountable would not be easy.
There is no doubt America was caught off guard when the U.S. diplomatic post in Benghazi was attacked. But could the attack have been prevented? And why didn't our military respond in time? John King reports.
September 11th, 2012, 8:46 a.m. A White House moment of silence that is now part of a sad national ritual. 9:49 a.m., the Pentagon Memorial. And then at 5 p.m., a new 9/11. President Obama is told the American mission in Benghazi is under attack. The U.S. ambassador missing.
Benghazi was a play, a tragedy in 3 acts. And an awful lot of the political energy has been placed on Act 2. You know, what happened that night?
At 6 p.m., now midnight in Benghazi, a series of urgent Pentagon meetings. 2 military units based in Spain, one on a training mission in Croatia, and another based at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, were told to get ready. Quick orders, but no quick options. The Croatia team reached a staging base in Sicily late Wednesday, 22 hours after the Benghazi attack. The North Carolina-based team reached that same base 90 minutes later. The fastest time to Libyan soil, one of the Spain-based teams made it to Tripoli at 9 p.m. Wednesday, 23 hours after the Benghazi siege began and 22 hours after the president was told. Too late. Way too late. By then, the siege was over, the U.S. mission in ruins, the nearby CIA annex heavily damaged, and the bodies of 4 dead Americans on a transport plane to Germany.
The United States military, as I've said, is not and frankly should not be a 911 service.
There's some places on the planet where we have some gaps, and I think North Africa is probably one of them.
To Congressman Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, case closed.
The bottom line is there was not a force available that could get there in time, and that has been clearly and unequivocally established and answered over and over again.
Republican Jason Chaffetz begs to differ.
There in northern Libya, right there on the coast, that we couldn't get U.S. military there for 24 hours. That's embarrassing if it's true. But I really question whether or not that's the actual truth.
So essentially you're saying General Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest ranking uniformed officer in the United States of America, isn't telling the truth?
I think there are other assets and other things that could have been put into motion. That cavalry never comes over the hill to help. That's just stunning to me.
There was one closer option. 4 special ops personnel in Tripoli, the Libyan capital, who wanted to rush to Benghazi, but were ordered not to. The Pentagon initially denied a stand-down order was given. That's technically correct, but it now concedes they were ordered not to go to Benghazi, but to instead help out in Tripoli.
If they had gone, they'd have simply passed each other in the air.
I'm more interested in Act 1.
Michael Hayden is the former CIA director.
Act 1 is what were the intelligence estimates, what kind of warnings were given, what was the plan? Okay, why do we have so few options in Act 2?
Act 1 is numbing, warning after warning, that Benghazi was a disaster waiting to happen.
What they had decided to do with the security posture was inconsistent with the threat assessment that was readily available.
Indefensible?
Look, I've been in those chairs. I'm not going to say it that way, but it's clear, John, it was inadequate.
The evidence was overwhelming. Attacks that convinced the British, the Red Cross, and the United Nations to leave Benghazi. 2 prior attacks on the U.S. mission, an IED thrown over the fence by former security guards in April, and another IED in June that blew a huge hole in a compound gate. And detailed warnings, CNN is told, in 4,000 classified cables, including updates on new al-Qaeda training camps near Benghazi.
How come that didn't rise to the level where somebody said, you know, we just can't operate in this environment? It was a death trap.
The official administration review found the security arrangements grossly inadequate and spread the blame across the State Department bureaucracy.
Senator, I want to make clear that no one in the State Department, the intelligence community, any other agency ever recommended that we close Benghazi.
But maybe they should have.
It's the only Western flag flying in Benghazi. Should it have been?
I don't think so. There was plenty of warning. It's kind of what we call strategic warning. You knew things bad could happen. Tactical warning, you know, it's going to happen tonight at 7 o'clock, not so much. If you were waiting for tactical warning, sitting out there in the consulate in Benghazi, you weren't waiting for intelligence, John. You were waiting to die.
So, John, the military says, right, they couldn't have gotten to Benghazi in time. But the United States has the greatest military in the world. So that seems shocking.
It does seem shocking. 24 hours for the first boots on the ground for the fire department to first make it to Libya and then only to Tripoli. I think a lot of Americans are stunned by that. Part of this is a long-term problem. Libya in northern Africa. The Africa Command, which was created for these kind of crises, is still based in Germany because the Pentagon hasn't come up with the money and made the political decision about where to locate the base in Africa. So part of this is a long-term problem. Then you get to Benghazi specifically. And Aaron, I think this is the greatest crime, if you will, at Benghazi. They had weeks and weeks and months of warnings. Now, the Pentagon's says it was never asked. But the fact that the State Department, the CIA, and the Pentagon did not get together and say, at a minimum, we need to have Marines floating in off Libya, I think that is the greatest crime. They knew there was a disaster brewing. Did they know when? No. But they had no fire department anywhere close.
All right, John, well, thank you very much. And of course, greater than the crime may be the cover-up. And up next, was it a cover-up by the Obama administration? And will anyone ever be brought to justice?
It might not be tomorrow, it might not be this year, but I do think at some point in time, the individuals responsible are going to be found, and there will be justice.
Come to the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sale.